On August 28, 2014, U.S. President Barack Obama held a live press conference in which he discussed the prospect of escalating U.S. military response to ISIS. However, what no one knew in that audience is that they had just witnessed the beginning of what is probably the stupidest United States presidential controversy in recent memory. This is the Obama tan suit controversy. I swear to God, this happened. So immediately after the press conference, a lot of people got on Twitter and began complaining, which is, just kind of what happens on Twitter. We have a great example of this preserved controversy in this great tweet. Not only is Obama wearing a tan suit, it seems way too big for him too. He looks like he's about to be bar mitzvahed in Miami. Mark one in the burn column, am I right, fellas? But it wasn't just us, mere peasants who had hot takes about the presidential fashion choices. It was actually, United States elected officials who had them too. U.S. Representative Peter King from New York jumped right on CNN with something that he had to say.
Here's a president coming out at such a serious moment where he should be addressing the country on such a serious matter, and he looked like he was on his way to a party at the Hamptons.
And for a period of time, this became an inescapable part of these talk news shows. Every day they were bringing on someone to weigh in on, Obama's fashion choice in this one press conference. And it wasn't actual just, tabloid news. We also had some more prestige media also weighing in because that's where we're at in our life at this point in time, apparently. The New York Times wrote that khaki is sort of a wishy-washy color, neither white nor brown, and hence seemed a particularly odd choice for a discussion of wishy-washy military policy. There was so much ink wasted on this, it would make your head spin. People did enough digging on this to find that Obama had actually flipped on this key issue. You can show in this Vanity Fair article from 2012, you'll see I wear only gray or blue suits. I'm trying to pare down decisions. I don't want to make decisions about what I'm eating or wearing because I have so many other decisions to make. It was last year Obama said that he was 50. This year, he says he's 51. What's the truth here, Barry? But the real question here is, why? Obama was generally considered, at least by the press, to be less controversy prone than previous or future presidents. And we were catching what many people felt was a boring president's presidency at the single most boring part of that presidency. It was 2014. It was after a largely successful re-election bid, so no change of government, and midterms haven't happened yet. So there was literally nothing to talk about, besides the actual issues, bad and good that were actually going on at that point in time. But that is not what these news shows are for. Presidents are largely only allowed to wear three colors: blue, gray, black, while they're in office, because these are the serious colors. Anything else is kind of a little bit, pushing the envelope. However, as many people did bring up during this controversy, there were totally presidents who have worn other colors during their time in office many times over. Reagan was, particularly fond of wearing tan and brown. But whenever you're in this situation, you have to have something to talk about. Being a newscaster in one of these just true news talk shows where every single day you got to talk about something. What are you supposed to talk about? Because the majority of the time, there's legitimately no real interesting, actual life impacting news. So what do? Well, you rerun yesterday's stories and then you just make up an issue because medium is message and you got to talk about something. However, whatever you think about Obama, and there are things to be mad about. There were things to be mad about at that point in time on those current policies. However, people, actual real, carbon-based life forms were broadly able to tell that this was the most manufactured out of these manufactured outrages.
There's so many other things that are going on in our country, in the world. We really don't need to worry about his suit.
It became in some ways a memory of a simpler time for certain people of remember whenever presidential controversies were just this. Now, I do want to make sure to mention, this was not the only controversy that happened during Obama's tenure. However, the fact that it happened at all does point towards something. It does show that there were in some ways times where it was less stressful on the political front. And whenever you do live in a time whenever it is very stressful, it is nice to remember these times, at least in some way. You can see this legacy being remembered whenever Kamala wore a tan suit to her DNC nomination, this past year. Also, President Biden wore a tan suit during Obama's birthday week, showing that this may just kind of be big funny in some Democratic circles. And it was in fact the first thing that got mentioned in Obama's last press conference that he had.
Let me start off by saying that I was sorely tempted to wear a tan suit today.
If I was to kind of condense this into like one takeaway, it would be that 24/7 news is, bad, okay? Because if you notice during all of this, controversy, no one actually spoke about the actual issues that were spoken about during that press conference. What were spoken about during that press conference?
Finally, I just spoke with Chancellor Merkel of Germany on the situation in Ukraine. We agree, if there was ever any doubt, that Russia is responsible for the violence in eastern Ukraine.
Thank God this happened on a slow news day, am I right? We may have missed something important. Today, Tan Suit is remembered as one of the dumbest controversies ever in the 24/7 news cycle. And if you want more news about it, just check the r/president subreddit. You want some groundbreaking news on that, just check in every 3 days there. But if you want some information on how a president dressed very well, check out this video about JFK's fashion choices.